AC is now working at your house, and that's why you're all here, because it's warmer here than it is in the So there's a reference to our first breakfast at Blake's, so which is really great. Say, it's really terrific to have all of you here. This is a record February crowd, which is terrific. Like we did without the cold, and obviously it speaks well of our speakers, so we will get to her in just a minute. But in the meantime, I just want to remind you that we have 2 more speakers lined up for the year. In April, we will have the class of 1955 speaker in residence, Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg. He's a pediatrician specializing in adolescent medicine at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. That will be after our spring break. And then in May, John Wright, class of 1979, will talk about his experiences during the past 30 years living and working in the financial markets in Hong Kong. And then in June, we will hear from our head of school, Ian Stabney, and we will move over to the Dominicana Club, where the breakfast is quite as good as Blake's Kitchen. So, but we'll suffer through it. Well, today our guest is Michele Tafoya, the sideline reporter for NBC Sunday Night Football. And I was digging into some information on her and was going to highlight some awards, of which there are many, her accomplishments, her jobs that she's had, and it's just plain too long to even get into it. Once you start, you can't stop, but the list goes on and on and on. This woman has done more than 20 years than most of us have done in a lifetime, and so it's really, really terrific to have her here. But since we're in the school, I will say that she did also go to school. She graduated from with a degree in mass communications in California, and then an MBA from the University of Southern California, before she started a broadcasting career with just 10 months in North Carolina, and then she was transferred to Minnesota to cover the Timberwolves and the Vikings for KFAN, and she has never left. She has been here ever since, raising her family here. Her kids are Blake Tyler is a 3rd grader, Olivia is a kindergartner. She and her husband Mark live in Minneapolis, and she is here today to tell us about her life on the sidelines, what worked, what didn't work, and why she worked so hard. Please welcome Michele Tafoya.
Good morning. It's so weird to hear someone kind of talk about you like that. I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to take this off. Because you start to go, I have kids? I raised kids? I have a 3rd grader and a kindergartner? When did that happen? It's amazing. Thank you for having me, and welcome out of the cold, and I'm impressed that you all got here. It was waking up early this morning that reminded me why I never pursued a job at Good Morning America, because morning stuff just is not for me. Before I get started, I want to show you a little piece of tape. This was the open from our Super Bowl. For those of you who don't know what I do, I work on Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's been the #1 rated show in primetime, all of primetime, entertainment and otherwise. For years now, we've won 6 straight Emmys for Best Live Sports Production. We're very proud of that. We don't like to boast, but it is worth noting. I got to tell you that when I'm standing on the field and that's playing in my ears and we're about to show the Super Bowl, I was just getting amped. It's a lot louder than it is there. You notice the Verizon presence. You saw the little... That's an expensive open. They've got to pay for it somehow. A little interesting tidbit, when you see guys like Russell Wilson doing this with a towel, or Rob Gronkowski spiking the football, you know, we didn't know who was going to be in the Super Bowl until they were decided 2 weeks ahead of time. So there's a little, we get to the Super Bowl, it's media day, it's the Tuesday before the Super Bowl, and we're at US Air's Arena in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, where media day was held, and we procured a little room, a tiny little room, and put a green screen up and had those guys show up in their uniforms. And there's a director there, and there's a camera, and all this lighting. They're like, okay, Rob, can you spike it again? And this time, after you spike it, look a little bit more that way instead of that way. So some of that was shot literally days before and then edited in. That's just a little side note there. All right, so what worked? How did I get to this? And the other cool thing about this, and believe me, I don't ever, it always shocks me that people even know who I am, seriously. If someone says, aren't you? And I'm like, Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I am. But it always stuns me because I forget that people watch television and I'm on it. But one of the things in there that you might have seen is she says, Sunday Night Football on NBC, come on along with the best on TV. And there's a shot of myself and Al and Chris Collinsworth. Well, that just happened this year. For 2 years I was on this show, and it said, Sunday Night Football on NBC, Al and Chris are the best on TV. And I really started to feel like chopped liver. What about me? But you know what? We started doing so well as a group that this year they changed the lyric, they added me to the open, and it was like a surprise to me. They showed it at our first production meeting. We were on site somewhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the open. And it was a very cool moment for me. That's just a little anecdote. Oh, well, thanks. Because I know Al and Chris loved it when Carrie Underwood was singing, Al and Chris are the best on TV, and I think they miss it, actually. But they've been very kind and gracious. So what worked? How did I get here? I remember I was working in production. I'd gone to Berkeley to get my undergrad. Lisa Paler went there too, woohoo! And then I went to USC to get an MBA, just because I wanted a fallback. I knew I wanted to do something in television, and I wasn't sure what it was. And so I went and I got my MBA, and I started working in production in an office in television in Hollywood, and I was like, oh, I want to be on the other side of that camera, and I really believe that I can be. And so I had some gentlemen around me that worked in television for a long, long time, and I said, what's your best piece of advice? I want to be on the other side. And one of them, his name was George, he said to me, go get a job. You're not going to get on the other side of the camera working in this office. Go get a job. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really good advice. Go get a job. So I put a demo reel together. I sent it to every network, every television station from Paducah, Kentucky to Terre Haute, Indiana, to CBS Sports, to NBC Sports, everybody. I made copies. I put up, my parents were loaning me all this money. I did pay them back eventually. But I sent all these out, and boom, I got a nibble in Charlotte, North Carolina to do radio, sports radio, 5 hours a day in Charlotte, North Carolina. This was before they even had a football team. So all you talked about were the Atlanta Braves, Duke, and the Hornets. And so anyway, I took that job. I just said, I'm going. I left my cool little beach pad in Hermosa Beach, California, and I went to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I knew nobody. And I spent 10 months working my tail off to try to just start. That was my starting point. The next thing you know, I did Michael Jordan retired while I was in, this is how long ago it was, while I was in North Carolina. And K-Fan called me to talk about it from North Carolina, and I was having this conversation with K-Fan, and the gentleman, Jeff Hagedorn, for those of you who go way back on K-Fan and remember Jeff Hagedorn, he said, all right, Michelle, it's been great having you. I need to put you on hold because someone here wants to talk to you. This is on the air. So he puts me on hold, and I'm kind of waiting. Well, what's going on? And a woman picks up the phone. She says, hi, you don't know me. I'm Lorna Gladstone. I'm the news director, the sports director here at K-Fan, and I want to hire you. And I thought, that was not on the air. It's a very good question. That was not on the air. And I was, quite frankly, I was miserable in North Carolina for a variety of reasons we don't have time for right now, but I was not happy. So I thought, wow, can I do Minnesota? So she said, I'm going to fly you up, I'm going to show you around, and I'm going to offer you a job. And I said, can I work on your Vikings coverage? Because all I wanted to do was cover the NFL. She said, yes. I said, sold, I'm there. So I thought, I'm from California. I'm from Manhattan Beach, California. I can handle 1 year in Minnesota. I'll be fine. The day I arrived, it was 60 below with the wind chill. And I thought, what am I doing? But you know what? Then I saw spring. And I understood. I'd never seen that before in my life. That transition from complete white and brown to colors and baby bunnies, and yes, even the dreaded geese. I was like, this is stunning. And before I knew it, I was here. This was home, and it has been for over 20 years now. So getting that job and moving along and doing that was the part of what worked. Sheer determination, I would say, was the driving thing. And I've always had it, and I don't know if you're born with it or what, but I've always had it, and I've just always been one of those people who wants to do everything and try everything and excel at everything. The other thing I found that worked for me was trusting myself, trusting my instincts. And I know we've all had in our professions many times where someone has told you, you know, I wouldn't do that. And you're thinking, but it's the right thing to do. It's the perfect move. Or, you know what, you're spending too much time on that and not enough on that. But I know I'm right. And they try to talk you out of it, and then you go with them and you think, oh, I shouldn't have gone there. I should have trusted myself. So I think trusting yourself plays a big role in achieving it. Quick story about that. When I was with CBS Sports, which was my first television job, believe it or not, was a network job. I'm at CBS Sports. I'm doing a piece on Bob Knight. Oh, Bob Knight, he was still the coach at Indiana. And his son, Pat Knight, was a senior at Indiana. And I was going to do the story on Pat Knight's final game with his dad, being coached by his dad. So we went, we saw a little bit of practice, did the interview with Pat Knight, his son, who was a senior in college, and then Bob Knight was going to come in, and I thought, I can't believe I'm going to interview the legendary Bob Knight. This is amazing. So we sat there, and we sat there, and we sat there, and we're watching our watches. We all have flights to catch. Looks like none of us are going to catch them. Bob Knight finally comes in like 2 hours late. And he's got I remember it so distinctly, he was wearing a button that said, I yell because I care. So, oh, is that what it is? Okay, I get you now. But Bob Knight would not make eye contact with me. Now, here's a story only Minnesotans can appreciate. It turns out Sid Hartman had called his close personal friend, Bob Knight, ahead of time and said, hey, Bob, this gal, Michele, is going to be coming to interview you. I don't know what else he said, but he had given Bob Knight the heads up. So Bob's sitting there. He will not make eye contact with me, not even, and I'm just sitting there. He's sitting across. We're getting him mic'd up like with one of these, and the camera's over my shoulder. It's going to just shoot a one shot of Bob while I ask him questions, and we're getting ready. And he says, so I understand you do radio in Minnesota. Yeah, I do. I still work at KFAN there. Yes, sir, I do. You do television too? As I have a camera over my shoulder. I said, yes, that's why I'm here. I'm here for CBS Sports. You any good at this? And I said, well, I like to think that I am, and that's why I got this assignment. Still not looking me in the eye. And he says, because you know, there are some women who do this who really stink at it. And I thought for a second, I said, Coach, you know what? You're right. And there are a lot of men who stink at it too. Now, I wasn't being the sexist thing here. I was the one trying to bring him down to earth and say, there are people in every career who stink, male or female. And then, you know what happened? He looked me in the eye for the first time, and he said, you and I are going to get along. He sat there for an hour and gave us the most fascinating interview. So it was kind of that trusting myself to just say what was coming naturally to me, as long as I didn't totally offend him. But it worked. It worked. And getting back to that female versus male thing, here's another thing that worked for me. And when young girls come to me, and I wish more young men would come to me, frankly, and ask for advice, because we all do the same thing. But when they come to me and they say, what would be your advice? I say, look, don't go in thinking I'm going to be a female sports reporter. Say to yourself, I'm going to be a sports reporter. I don't care if you're male or you're female or you're blue or you're brown. I don't care. You are a reporter. You're competing with every other reporter in the room, in the press conference, whatever. Just go be a reporter. And that has served me well, and believe me, I've run into women who have let that female thing get in their way. They put it in their own way. Oh gosh, I don't want to go in the locker room because, you know, I can't be in there. Well, it's your job. Figure out a way. My way was by only looking at guys' eyebrows. That was my rule, the eyebrow rule. I'd go in the locker room, okay, just look at the eyebrows so that no way do your eyes trail below the eyebrow. That worked for me too, by the way. But I think that willingness to say, look, this is my job. I'm not going to be a female reporter. Yeah, I'm female. I'm going to be a reporter. So that's the first piece of advice I give everyone, and I think that has really worked well for me. The willingness to sacrifice. to leave Hermosa Beach, California, and go to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I knew nobody, and work for peanuts, and work my tail off every single minute of every day, reading every sports section cover to cover, highlighting, memorizing, putting notebooks together, preparation, sacrificing and working hard, and constant self-critique. And this I learned a little bit later, because I didn't used to like to listen to myself back or watch myself. Oh, I can't stand looking, because it's very hard for me to watch myself on television. But you have to. You have to look, the tape doesn't lie, as they always say in sports. You have to look at it and say, what was good about that, and what would I have changed? What could be better? Everything from, my hair looks better this way than that way, to, God, that color doesn't look good on TV, to, you should have shortened that sentence right there, and why did you include this question in the interview? Everything. Self-critique, it only makes you better. So those are a lot of things that did work. And with that in mind, I want to show you what E-Entertainment decided was my day on the job. And this is just a snippet. This was before a San Francisco 49ers game in, well, we'll figure out where it is in because it'll show, but I do remember that because I was working with Jim Harbaugh. This is their behind-the-scenes piece with me, shot a couple years ago. I'm Michele Tafoya, and I'm the sideline reporter on NBC Sunday Night Football. While the field is kind of the office, we do something every single day to get ready, whether it's reading or watching film or talking to people. Well, Dante Whitner is one of the few 49ers, and I mean few, who know Tom Brady pretty well.
He's going to give you his best each and every snap.
Good luck, thanks so much. I got to run into a meeting. Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, is in there. I'll be right back. Be nice to talk to you. Jim Harbaugh, this will be the second game I worked with Jim, and we'll just see how it goes. And look, right on cue, here comes Jim Harbaugh now, so I got to go back into the meeting room.
Hey, Michele.
How are you?
Good. How you
Good
doing?
to see you. I'm good. Someday I'll be a full-time mom, and I can't wait. My son is 7, and he's a football fanatic, and my daughter's 4. Apparently she found a stick in the front yard, and just a twig off of a tree, and she walks around the living room and says, I like mommy.
I'm out there for about an hour and a half on the pregame, but she's out there for 3.5 hours, and sometimes the wind chill is getting down around 10 degrees. Michele has a great way of combining high fashion sense with high practicality when it comes to protecting her against the elements.
All right, see you tomorrow. Bring your reindeer. It's going to be awful. All right, we're at Foxborough. 3.5 hours to game time. So many layers. You got the cold and you got the rain. So the outside layer had to be something kind of water resistant. This is the Costa set. So this is where Bob, and you can see Heinz Ward is over there right now, former Pittsburgh Steelers great. Hi, Heinz! A lot of people know him as the Dancing with the Stars champion. What do you get recognized for more now? Catching that pass in the Super Bowl, or?
14 years of playing in the NFL, more recognizable
Dancing with the Stars. When it's cold and rainy and snowy, it does play out over the makeup, I must say, and the hair.
Players got to play in it. The players got to report in it.
No take 2 in this business. Live television. 1 take. You know, Spielberg gets 20 takes. We get 1 take. Michele is fantastic. During the game, she's kind of in the fray, in the middle of it, where we're sitting upstairs, and she can see and understand and feel things that you can't.
It's been great, but I got to get ready for the game. I've been waiting all day for Sunday night. Bye. So that is the E-Entertainment version of what. Very short snippet, but work really does start during the week. I get home on Mondays from a game. I take Monday and I kind of settle and be with my family, and then starting Tuesday, it all starts over again. Just reading, prepping, watching film seriously, calling people, conference calls with my boss. So it is a full week, and then we get to the site. People think, oh, do you come in Sunday morning and then just go do the game? No, I fly in Thursday night. Friday we spend with the home team. In that case, it was the Patriots. Saturday we go to the team hotel of the visiting team. In that case, it was the 49ers. And then Sunday we get up and we have a meeting at 8 in the morning and we work all the way till midnight. So it's a big, long, intense weekend and a big, long, intense season. And this year we threw in the Super Bowl too, so it was a much longer one. So that's that. All right, what didn't work for me? I kind of alluded to this in what worked. Other people's opinions. Had I listened and paid attention to, I don't know, CJ here in Minnesota in the gossip section, Rudy Martzke in USA Today, even some of the people that I worked with, I may not have lasted. I had to, there were some, and now, listen, look, if my son, who's this tall, says, Mom, I want to go play in the NBA, I'm going to say, son, you don't have a good shot at that, because you're just not that tall. But if he says, Mom, I want to do something that seems reasonable, I'm going to give him as much encouragement and support as I can. I don't want to set unrealistic expectations, but I never thought I was setting unrealistic expectations for myself. I never did. I just thought this is what I can do. I'm going to do it. And listening to others' opinions of you, oh, it's hard. It's hard. It's really painful sometimes. One time CJ did something to me. And I remember I was at home at my house after it printed, and I was like lying in the fetal position in my bed, crying, and my then fiance, now husband, was sitting there going, it's gonna be okay. And I said, whatever you do, don't let me quit. I know I can do this. Don't let me quit. And he said, okay, I won't. And believe me, there were times it was tempting, because that public battering you take for making a mistake on the air, for being human, is really difficult, but you got to be willing to do it. So, you know, don't listen to the opinions of others. I guess that did work. Sometimes I let them influence me, and that didn't work. I think one of the things that worked against me always was not playing the game. I wasn't political enough. I wasn't the glad hander. I wasn't the schmoozer. I can't be that way. And I think sometimes that's hard in this business. You kind of have to be willing to do it. And I just never was. Do I regret it? Not one bit, because I can sleep at night. And I can look myself in the mirror and say, you're a good person, and you didn't do anything wrong to get here. You've done it all by way of hard work and honesty and integrity. One other thing that didn't necessarily work, I didn't ever move to New York. I was here when I got hired by CBS Sports, which is located in New York City, and they said, you want to move to New York? Most people would have said, Minnesota, New York? But I really liked it here. I've always had some sort of Midwest sensibility. I really liked it here. I liked the spring, and then I met my husband, and that was that. And we've had opportunities to move, and I haven't, has that cut down on my opportunities? Probably. Do I regret it? Not one bit. Look where I am. Look where my kids are. This is fabulous. And why I work hard? Well, I never wanted to have money worries. Sorry if that's offensive to anybody. But my dad grew up very poor. My mom grew up very poor. Together they worked extremely hard, still had money concerns. I saw how it manifested itself in our family environment. And I simply wanted to grow up to be a happy person. And I thought, I don't want to have those worries. So I want to work, and no matter what I end up doing, I don't want to have those worries. I know that will detract from my happiness. It certainly detracted from my late father's happiness, and I didn't want to do that. Why do I work hard? Number two, look at who I work with. I work with Bob Costas, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, and the people behind the scenes that you'll probably never meet are as good at their jobs as anyone in this sports business have ever been. And they raise this bar, and if you don't go up to it, sayonara, you know, you're not going to stay. So it's trying to just keep up. The third reason is the way I view work is I'm fortunate. I have a job I love. That was another part of my pursuit. I wanted to do something I loved that didn't feel like work. And what's the point of doing it if you're not going to do your best? You know, what is the point of doing the work? Yes, it's to bring home a paycheck. Yes, it's all these things. But do it well, and that requires hard work in my estimation. And finally, I believe in achievement. I believe in success. I believe in meritocracy. I believe in this stuff because I do think it can go hand in hand with generosity and compassion. We do a lot of good things with the rewards that we reap. And the only reason we can is because of the rewards that we reap. And I feel great about that. And there's so much more I want to do. I also, you know, I'm able to come and speak to people. And it's not just here. I'll be able to speak at fundraisers, charity events, and go help. And that's a great feeling. But that comes with achievement and success in your field. And I believe in it. And I believe that those things go hand in hand. Generosity and compassion can be fruits of all of that labor, and I believe that as well. Before I take questions, I just want to give you one more little snippet of what I worked really, really hard all week, and then my cumulative total on television is probably about 4 minutes each week. I'm like the kicker, right? And boy, if I miss that field goal wide right, I am toast. But here's I'll give you just a little smattering of what we do. This is New England versus Cincinnati.
Check in with Michele Tafoya. Michele.
The Patriots have been the most successful team in the NFL since the arrival of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But after a lackluster performance 2 weeks ago against the Raiders and a 41-14 thumping by the Chiefs last week, things got a little ugly with the New England media this week. The headlines were bold, the questions were abrasive, and the answers were predictably short.
There's a lot of people in town that are jumping you. Do you feel like you passed your time?
You mentioned Tom's age in the draft.
We're on to Cincinnati.
What do you think having a 37?
We're on to Cincinnati. It's not about the past, nothing about the future. It's right now we're trying for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, I'm just asking, do you think you've done enough to help Tom?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
And here we are in the first week of October, and it's already now or never. Well, Tom Brady told us on Friday it's not much fun being the heavy bag. Al, he said, it's time to be the hammer, not the nail.
One thing for sure, Michele, that we know, they're on to Cincinnati. 18-yard line, we go, Michele.
Marvin Lewis told me at halftime he wants his offense to up the tempo when they have the ball, and he said when the Patriots have the ball, Brady's getting rid of it so fast, they don't have time to get pressure on him. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick told me he wants his team to stay aggressive and cut back on the penalties. And by the way, safety Devin McCourty is questionable with a rib injury out.
All right, thank you, Michele. So on the 40 spot, as you look at him, is on for the 18. Let's go to Michele.
Al, I spoke with Devin still in August when his daughter was awaiting surgery to remove her tumor. He was devastated and anxious. I spoke with him again on Thursday, and he is in a much better place. He told me they successfully removed the entire tumor, and his daughter has a legitimate shot at being cancer-free. Still a few hurdles out, but Devin is much more hopeful now.
Well, everybody say a prayer for the daughter of that man. Nice game. Here's Michele.
Well, Darrelle Revis, we all saw him go back to the locker room, Al, and I was told he was questionable with a hamstring injury, so it was a little bit of a surprise to see him come out here. Well, here he is.
Yep. So all three of them, game balls, likenesses on the Sunday Night Football bus, and two of them, Brady and Ridley, are with Michele.
Well, Tom, after a week when so many people questioned this team and you, what was your mindset like as you took the field tonight?
It was a great opportunity for us. So, a lot of guys dug really deep this week. Coming off a tough loss like we did. It was a good week.
Why did things go so much better tonight?
Well, we played better. We executed better. It was a great team win. A lot of guys made a lot of big plays. So, it was a great effort. We're going to need a lot more around this long season. We got a big one this week in Buffalo.
You became the 6th quarterback in NFL history to cross that 50,000 yards passing mark. What does that milestone mean to you?
It's awesome. I love not having to throw against 24 over here anymore. Too many throws against him. So I'm glad to see Owen outside making all the plays that he did tonight.
You capped that drive with a touchdown pass to Tim Wright, and there was a lot of emotion, a lot of smiles. You and Julian Edelman trying to figure out who was going to spike the ball. What was behind all that emotion?
Well, like I said, it was a long week, and the guys really dug deep. So I'm proud of everybody. It was a great win. Just happy for us. But once again, it's one game. We got a lot more to go, and like I said, this week's as big a week as any for us.
Tom, thanks for the time. And Darrelle Revis is the guy he's happy not to throw against anymore. Hey, Darrelle, you left the field for a while with a hamstring injury. You were questionable. You came back out. What happened?
Well, that doesn't matter because I came back. It was a minor injury, and I was just happy to get back out there with my teammates and help contribute on the win.
Contribute? You know, with the battle with A.J. Green, you won it tonight. How were you able to do it?
Just study film. He's a great player, executor. Every down on him, and just try to be aggressive as much as I can with him.
I was talking to Tom about the week that was. How do you think this team responded to all the criticism?
We responded well, man. I think this team has a lot of heart, and we played with a lot of heart tonight. So that's just good, man. It was a long week for us. We executed everything we did, everything the coaches wanted us to do, and we came out and played well tonight.
Terrell, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Bob, back to you.
Michele, apologies to friends and family.
He was apologizing to friends and family of Stephen Ridley because Ridley was going to be with me on the field and he wasn't. But Bob didn't know that at the time. So with that, that's kind of what worked, what didn't, and why I work hard in a nutshell. I guess we're going to do some questions. Absolutely. Unless you're all bored and you want to go to work, and I totally understand. Can I just call on people? Yes.
What was the atmosphere on the sidelines in the Super Bowl after the interception?
Oh. Okay, so I just happened to be on the New England sideline. I had been over on the Seattle sideline. I was back behind the New England sideline. Here comes Seattle, they're driving. You know they're going to score, right? You know they're going to score, especially after that unbelievable catch by Jermaine Kearse. So then there's Russell Wilson. You figure he's going to hand it off to Marshawn Lynch. It's 2nd and goal. And Bill Belichick, I'm right behind him, and he's going like this. The official's over here, and he's going like this, because you know he wants to call a timeout the instant they score, so that they can at least get down in field goal range. So he's going like this. He's watching, and throws the pick, and Bill's arms just went like this. He just changed man in an instant, and the sideline erupted like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, every celebration is unique, but that Super Bowl was something else. And you saw from where this team came from, the Patriots, questioning if Tom Brady was over the hill, and Bill and his way were on to Cincinnati. They were on their way to the Super Bowl, and they won it. But that was an amazing moment, amazing. Yes?
Yes, I have a question for you in reference to your forward out.
Yeah?
For many years, on many occasions, you come into town and remark that here we are in Minneapolis, shutters, God knows what the temperature is. And it goes on from that on to the pregame analysis.
Yeah.
At what point, or what prompted you to seize the moment, putting straight, in terms of what his sense of Minnesota is?
Do you think I've actually put Al Michaels straight on what Minnesota is?
I believe that you have the charm to get that kind of question.
Al does not like to be cold. Al often says, I don't like any town that ends in an Annapolis. So that would Al has had a couple of run-ins with a couple of writers here, which also kind of impacts his view of the Twin Cities. And he knows I'm from Southern California, so he keeps telling me to come back. So I'm not sure I have persuaded him. I've had him to my home. I've told him how much I love it here. But maybe when the Super Bowl is here in 3 years, and we have it on NBC, how great is that, a home Super Bowl game? Maybe then I'll have turned the page for Al, but there's not enough charm to convince him. Other interesting note about Al, he's got a book out now that's terrific, but he has never eaten a vegetable in his life. It's the truth. You put broccoli down near him, he's like, oh, someone get that away from me. It's a weird thing. Yes, sir.
Michele, you interviewed a lot of us. There's got to be some answer that you get from some of these players where you've got bubble thoughts thinking, holy man, I mean, you know, so you got to have a story somewhere along the way. So I can't believe that's a legitimate answer to a question.
Oh, there are too many of those to go into.
Yeah.
I mean, right? There's a lot of coach speak, player speak, and you're thinking, please, please, please. And so that's why I relished. Remember when Kevin Garnett finally went to the Celtics and they won a championship, an NBA championship, back in 2008? That was my last year covering the NBA, because I had now children, and covering the NBA is intensely ridiculous schedule. So I got to cover Kevin Garnett winning his championship, and if those of you, I wish I'd put it on here, But you may remember that when I went to him and I said, you know, defensive MVP, da-da-da-da-da, and now NBA championship, what does it feel like? Or something like it. What's going through your mind? And he could barely speak, and then he went, anything's possible! You know, and he started screaming in the Boston Garden, and I loved it because it was raw, genuine emotion coming from a player at that moment. And people were saying to me later, God, wasn't that weird? And I said, are you kidding? That was phenomenal. Greg Popovich, the coach of the Spurs, was another one who used to give me just the greatest stuff at halftime. So what stands out to me more than the, are you kidding me, are the, are you kidding me? This is great. Those moments are the ones that I remember. Yeah.
So playing on that, what was the fallout of the Richard Sherman Legion of Boom on that?
You mean last year, or
years ago, when maybe it was last year?
When he shouted to the one reporter?
Yeah.
I love Richard Sherman. I'm going to say that right now, even though he went to Stanford, but I love him. Stanford and Cal, we have this thing. But anyway, it's kind of like Wisconsin, Minnesota. Richard Sherman is smart. He's a good man. He's worked his tail off. He came from the inner city. His mom said, you're not playing a down of football until your homework's done. Sit on that bench, don't put your helmet on until your homework's done. She protected him. She took care of him. He and his brother grew up. He gets into Stanford. He's a terrific guy. He is another one. You relish it because he says what he feels. And he says what he means, and he holds nothing back. If he's holding back, I'd be afraid to know what's going on in his mind. But I admire that. It's refreshing. It's different, and it's honest. And I guess I really appreciate honesty. Yes, ma'am. That is a great question, because I think when you're younger, it's much easier and much more fun to watch sports on TV than it is to watch death and destruction. And I did work in news in Washington, D.C. I was an intern right after I got out of college. I interned at the NBC affiliate in Washington, D.C., and I looked at it and I was like, yawn, this is boring, you know. Now, I might have done it differently, because I'm a news junkie. I watch more news on TV now than I do sports. God's honest truth, by a ratio of like 20 to 1. That's the truth. But at that time, my uniqueness was that I was a female and that I loved and knew sports really, really well. And I thought, if I want to do this, I can marry these two passions. I mean, I loved the 49ers growing up. Are you kidding me? I was a nut job over the 49ers. And to me, it would be heaven to marry these two things, my love of broadcasting with my love of sports, and especially the NFL. And I thought, oh man, that's paradise. That's where I want to be. And so that's why I chose sports. And again, I think it did give me an edge. I'm not gonna lie that I was a woman, because I was at that time especially, I was one of very, very few who could do this job. And that gave me an advantage. You know, if you lined me up against 6 other men and they're going, well, we sort of have to balance the thing, so we'll pick her. So what? But I stuck. You know, a lot of women got in and didn't want the stuff that went with it. Yes.
So what made you love the NFL? When you look at your kids love, is it okay if they play ice hockey?
Is it okay if they play hockey? My husband, who was a baseball player at the U, wanted them to play hockey. My son can't skate, so no, he can skate. Tyler, I'm sorry if the vibes are going through Blake right now. He can skate. He has no interest in hockey. I don't know. His grandfather, Bruce Vandersall, was the defensive coordinator at the U for many years. His mom is a sports reporter on the NFL. We love Gopher football. I don't know. I think maybe that influenced him. We've certainly never pushed him in that direction. My question is, am I going to let him play football? And he wants to be a wide receiver in the NFL. But I love the NFL because I think it's the perfect television sport, and I grew up watching it. It's the perfect sport for television. You've got that, you can see all 22 players in one shot. You know where the ball's going. You know you have to cross this line. You know, for me, it's perfectly understand. To me, it's a beautiful game. Even though there's a lot of hitting and there's stuff that happens, I just love it. I can't define it. Yes, sir, I think I know you.
Blake gifts for you there, so you can wear proudly as a Blake mother.
So that I don't have to always wear maroon and gold.
Say, I really enjoyed going live to Saturday Night Live once, and I was at the production. I can't wait to go for the second time, because the first time I went, Howard Cosell was the guest host. I'm looking forward to going with your guest host sometime. I think it'll be terrific. So.
That's about as likely as me being on Dancing with the Stars.